Welcome to another More Than Medicine podcast with Dr. Simone Josey, author, speaker, and physician. Listen in as Dr. Simone shares real-life, practical, everyday survival tips for all healthcare professionals. Let's join Dr. Simone now.
I was giving a presentation recently, and after my presentation, a woman came up to me and she was extremely emotional. And I could see that a lot of the information I presented in the provider burnout lecture that I gave really resonated with her. And I remember as I was speaking, she was furiously taking notes and taking pictures of my slides on the screen and all. So I knew that she was really appreciative of the information I shared, and she said as much, which of course made me very emotional and of course, appreciative of her honesty. But there was something more though. She was concerned because as an office manager, one of the office managers in her practice, she was noticing that there were some of the team members that were just not engaged anymore. They just didn't seem as though they wanted to be there. And little by little, it seemed as though their negative sentiments were getting worse. And she was telling me all the things she had tried and how nothing seemed to work. And so she was almost at her wit's end. Well, of course, the natural tendency would be to try and, maybe shake things up by getting some different staff members in. But she was in a small practice, a very small firm with, limited resources. And so she wasn't able to expand the employee pool at that moment. And also, too, she didn't want to. She really felt as though she had an obligation to try and help these staff members that had been there for, I believe, close to a decade. They were there, and she felt as though they were family, and she didn't want to just, try and replace them. She wanted to actually help them, but she didn't know how. And so she came to me after I was talking about a totally different topic, but she brought up the issue of being a leader in healthcare and how she...
For free professional development resources, visit drSimoneSays.com and click the free resources button.
Hello, healthcare professionals. Dr. Simone here. Welcome back to the weekly podcast, More Than Medicine, with me, your host, Dr. Simone Josey. I'd like to say welcome to all of my new listeners. So very happy to have you. If you are in healthcare, you are in the right place. And of course, I have to say welcome back to all of my faithful listeners. For 31 amazing episodes now, you have continued to come back and comment and share and click the notifications tab so that you're always alerted when I upload new content. And so for that, I say thank you very much. Now, those of you who have been listening to this podcast for some time now, you probably have noticed that I've slightly changed the format for the episodes. So still providing information that's relevant and pertinent to you as a healthcare provider, but I've actually tweaked the presentation or the format for my episodes. I would love to know what you think. So the previous podcast, so episode number 30, and then this episode today, actually, I've done something slightly different. Let me know what you think. I would love to get your feedback. I always want to make sure that I am presenting information in a way that is most applicable and helpful to you. As I'm looking toward 2018, I am starting already to see how I can improve that which I do and how I can make it even better for you. And that being said, most people wait until the end of the year or until January to start making changes for self-improvement, for professional development and such. But personally, I always subscribe to the thought process of let me pick momentum up. So I don't wait until January to make changes. Instead, I usually start around about August, September, and definitely by the time October rolls around, I am moving very intentionally. because I don't want for the end of the year to catch me and for me just to start, making plans or making moves or taking action. So that's just a little, of my personal development tip for you is don't necessarily wait until December or January or even the first of a month or, a new quarter to make a change in your life. You can actually start right here in the moment and begin to pick up momentum. Look at it this way. So many people have weight loss and health and fitness and healthy living on their New Year's resolution list, right? Most people do. But everybody does the same thing. They wait until January 1 and then Planet Fitness and LA Fitness is jam-packed. I don't think that's smart. I'm just going to put that out there. I don't think that's wise. I actually think it makes more sense to start in October or November even, because then you will have momentum. You'll already be comfortable with the equipment. You'll already know the people in the gym. You'll already have a little routine down so that when there is a flood of new people, you already have your thing going. You're already hitting the ground running. You already have that momentum. So I like to do that in my own life, whether it's with health and fitness, whether it's with financial things or personal, professional growth and development. I always like to start a little bit early. I like to do things before the crowd gets there. That way, I'm already on my way. For those of you who follow me on social media, you know that I have been doing a fair amount of traveling this fall, and I'm really blessed to have had the opportunity to make such great connections. In just the past few weeks, I was in Pittsburgh, so I was going back to my roots, UPMC grad as far as residency. I was back in Pittsburgh and I spoke at the IPED conference, and that's the Institute for Podiatric Excellence and Development. And it is such a great group of people. I mean, just so passionate about helping to empower and develop podiatric doctors. So if you're in podiatry, check it out, IPED. And when I was there, I spoke about burnout, physician burnout, and ways to avoid burnout in our lives. We know that that's such a big issue that we all face in healthcare. And so I have devised ways, practical ways to actually overcome and even prevent burnout symptoms. Extremely unique. I love presenting. I love sharing about that. So that's what I talked about in Pittsburgh. And then in Tampa, I went to the PACOM conference. Again, great organization. If you are in healthcare and you're an office manager or a leader in your practice, the Professional Association of Healthcare Office Managers, definitely check them out, PAHCOM. And at that conference, I shared one of my signature presentations, Deja Vu to Deja Do. And many people ask me, what exactly is that presentation about? Well, we know deja vu is what? Something we see over and over again. Like, wait, did that just happen again? Right? It's deja vu. But sometimes in the office setting, as a leader, you realize that your team might just need a little jolt of energy. There might need to be some shaking of things up, right? Or maybe even there's like a recharge that's needed. You're tired of the same problems happening over and over again. Or maybe even the changes in healthcare are becoming so daunting that it's starting to impact the productivity and the excellence of the team. Well, that's where I come in. I love sharing about that. So Deja Vu to Deja Do, that was what I talked about in Tampa. And after both of these presentations, most recently, right? So Pittsburgh and Tampa, I noticed something. The people in the audience who came up to me and were asking questions, they also started pouring their hearts out. And they were really concerned because they were having leadership issues. So even though they were saying, my team is great and, I have a really good bunch of people who are eager and energetic, there's some disconnect, there's some problem, or maybe, they were also having issues, one or two, they would say, well, I have a team member or a couple team members who just aren't performing as well as they did in the beginning. And I'm really struggling with how it's impacting the balance and the productivity and the excellence in the practice setting. And so I decided that since I gave one-on-one help in that moment, and since you are also my loyal listeners, and since you come too for information, I decided why not share even just a fragment of the information here with you. Of course, this is just a short podcast. There is no way for me to truly condense a full presentation that's sometimes an hour and a half into, one segment, one episode. I can't do that. But if you would like more information or you want for me to come and talk to your team, then please let me know, right? I love to travel, love to talk. So that's what I like to do. But what I want to share with you actually is just a bit of information that I think is going to be helpful to you, because a lot of times practices, whether you're in a big facility or you're in a small practice, you don't always have the funds or resources to always bring in new team members. And that's usually what people gravitate to. They gravitate to bringing in new people. Well, that is sometimes definitely needed, but other times there are ways that we can actually rejuvenate and inspire our current team. And these are things that I have done in the past when I've worked with other practices, whether I was there as an employee or I was brought in as a consultant. And so I know it works, okay? And so I want to share 2 tips for you, or 2 action steps that you can take to actually inspire your team, but it's going to be doing it by actually empowering them. All right. So I really believe you're going to benefit from this information. It's going to show you how you can work with your current team to actually empower them to be more productive, to be more engaged. All right. So definitely keep on listening.
Stay connected with Dr. Simone on Facebook at Dr. Simone Josey, and on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat at Dr. Simone Says.
All right, so you are a leader in your practice. Maybe you're the office manager, or you are in a position where you have capability to impact what happens in the practice from a leadership perspective. Let me ask you a question. When is the last time you looked at the resumes for those who are currently employed in the practice? So your current team members, when is the last time you opened up their file and looked at their resume? Exactly. Most people don't do that. Once our team members are hired, we usually don't think about that file, that application, the resume they submitted. We don't think about it. Instead, we just kind of look ahead and think, okay, they've got the job. What can we do to help train them to get the job done, to do good work, right? And to incorporate into the current system. Now that, of course, makes sense, but I think that is an area where we have untapped potential and untapped resource. What I want you to do, number 1, we're going to be talking about reviewing the current resume. So if you have not looked at the resumes of your current team members, you need to do that, okay? And specifically, I want for you to focus on what interests they have outside of medicine. So oftentimes we focus on their medical skills and their experience, and that definitely is pertinent. But with the changes in healthcare, we need to look at what extracurricular experiences and interests they have. So we are in a digital world. You might have someone who is into technology and who is into the digital transfer of information, but you might not necessarily be utilizing all of their potential in your practice because you only hired them for one specific task or one specific role. I don't think that's wise. You need to review the resume and see, what else am I missing? What other tasks and skills can he or she bring to the table that will, number 1, obviously help with patient care. Number 2, it will help with the practice productivity and excellence. But number 3, it will also help the individual. It will also help your team member, because if he or she is doing something that they're passionate about, that they have interest in, that is appearing to be outside of the medical realm, but if they can translate that into what they do on a daily basis in your practice, can you imagine how excited and engaged and energized they are going to be performing that task? Take, for instance, someone who is into web development. Well, maybe your website in your practice is lacking, or maybe you need someone to help out in between when the web developer is really busy. Why not inquire? Like, hey, I see on your resume that you're interested, or you took, one or two courses in college, or maybe, audited a couple classes, or I see that your social media profile is amazing. Okay, you have a lot of followers, you're really engaged, and people really like the content you're putting out. You have a way of presenting it in a great, eye-catching way. Is that something that you'd be willing to do for the practice? And you'd be surprised how many of your team members would be so thrilled to participate in the actual workings of the practice outside of just what their job description is. All right, so that's the first thing. Take a look at the resume, see what you might be missing. And then the second thing is, I have another question. When is the last time you asked your current team members to give you a new resume? Right. Most people don't do that. Most people don't think about having their current team submit new resumes. Now, it's not because you're thinking about getting rid of people, nothing like that. But the reason I recommend getting a second set of resumes after even a couple of years working in your practice or working in that healthcare system is because you can use it as a comparison. So compare the new resume that you receive to the previous resume. You're looking for three main things. There are other things, but there are three main things that I want to talk about on this episode. So the first thing is you're going to look for growth in your team member. They have been with your practice, or they have been in your healthcare facility for X period of time. They should have acquired some new skills. You need to know about that. There are constant education and continuing medical training courses that they've been attending. They need to be putting that on their resume. They need to be realizing that, hey, you know what? My time here is not just clocking in and clocking out. So psychologically, you're showing them that they are growing as people. When team members feel as though they are doing more than just clocking in and clocking out, and they can actually see the results of that because their resume is changing, then guess what? That gives them a new sense of rejuvenation and excitement, and also loyalty, because now they realize, look, I'm not just investing, just my pay period, but I'm investing in myself. All right. So look for growth, and you can recognize that on the resume comparison, but also to point it out to your team member when appropriate. The next thing you want to look at when you're doing your resume comparison is you want to look at the objective line or the goal line. So you want to see how they describe their goal as an employee currently. So realize they're speaking from a perspective of wanting to get the job, but also from a perspective of having that job and being in that position. So how are they describing their goal? It's very key, because the words that people use helps you determine how happy they are, how content they are, if they feel as though they're being valued, because they will use more appropriate words or more descriptive words when they have a good sense of what they are bringing to the table and what is required of them, versus just a very vague description. Then you can usually tell, how invested they are or how much value they believe they bring to the table. Okay, so that's the first thing. Look at how they describe their objective. And then the next part that you really want to focus in on is how are they describing their current position duties. So most resumes with substance have actual bullet points, like 3 to 5 bullet points, where the person will fill in their current duties for their current job or things they've done in the past. So I think it's really important for you to look and see, how are your team members describing their current roles? And you want to look for inconsistencies, right? So maybe they might be doing jobs that they're not trained to do, or they're not getting paid to do. And of course, that can leave team members feeling jaded. right? And unappreciated. You also want to look for areas where they might be serving but not getting recognition. And of course, people crave attention. So that can also lead to feeling unappreciated and unvalued in a practice. So when you're looking at the current job description or position and duties, pay very close attention because you want to find any inconsistencies or areas where even you as a leader can step up as far as recognizing them for their job well done.
Dr. Simone Josey is a practicing physician, thought leader, professional speaker, and consultant for leadership, professional development, and customer service skills.
And then the final thing that you're going to look for is new interests. So what is it that is on the resume now that was not on there before? What sparks interest in your team member that you did not know, and how can you use that in the practice, and how can you empower them to use that new skill or interest in the practice? What I like to do is always direct leadership to empowering your team members by helping them to see their value beyond just the daily tasks. What else can they bring to the table? When people are able to operate in their own excitement and when they're able to operate in their own passion, the amount of productivity, the amount of energy, the amount of loyalty, the amount of expertise, that is unmatched. So I always say to leadership teams, look, if you're struggling to inspire your team, if you're noticing that it's really hard to get people excited to come to work and it seems as though they're just there for the paycheck, maybe it's because they don't find anything at work that's inspiring. And I know that sometimes that's a hard pill to swallow, but maybe that's the case. Maybe there's nothing there that is truly speaking to who they are as individuals. And a major part of transformational leadership is going just beyond the resume. It's going just beyond the duties that are in the handbook. And it's really trying to connect with your team members so that you can translate who they are into what they're doing. So as healthcare professionals, we often find that we are forced to focus solely on patients. And that is, of course, important, right? I'm a doctor, it's important. And I firmly believe that patients come first in healthcare. But a very close second are those who are providing the care. We cannot give what we don't have. If your team does not feel inspired, motivated, energized, excited, if they don't feel loyal or valued, they won't be loyal. How do we expect for them to translate all of these good, engaging thoughts, and how do we expect for them to be able to relate to our patients if they themselves don't feel connected to the work that's being done on a daily basis? It's impossible. All right. So what I wanted to share was pretty much that there are ways that we can truly inspire our current team, and we don't always have to go out and look for the next best, newest, greatest young graduate. I do believe that there's a time and a season for, fresh blood in the pipeline, of course. But if you don't have the financial resources, or if your practice or institution is not in the place where you can do that in the moment, then it is important to really connect with your current team, to really see how you can move forward with your current staff and what you can do to empower them, to inspire them to be the best version of themselves. Your team is by far one of the most valuable assets in your practice. So it's not the $10,000 piece of equipment. It is your team members, the men and women who serve alongside you on a daily basis. All righty, healthcare professionals. So today I talked about how you can use your team's resume, so your current team's resume, to actually empower and engage them and excite them to be more productive at work. Hope you found that helpful. Definitely reach out to me. Let me know what you plan to incorporate in your practice setting. Let me know how it works for you. Like I said, these tips are things that I share with other healthcare professionals all over the country. And so I wanted to make sure that even though I can't give you everything that I share during my presentations, I'm going to give you a little bit so at least you can kind of get the ball rolling, okay? Of course, if you'd like for me to come in and talk with your leadership team, reach out to me, all right? My contact information will be here in the podcast information as well as in the podcast notes. I'm in the process of collecting data because, like I said, I want to make sure that the information I'm presenting to you is relevant and helpful. And so for 2018, I really want to ramp things up even more. So stay tuned for a lot of great things on the horizon. Now, in order for me to do that, though, I need your help. Will you help me? Okay, I am going to be giving away my ebook, all right? So access to my ebook, one of my favorite ebooks, a favorite of many people who have read it. The reviews have been extremely positive. And so it's Lessons from Emmy. It's one of my favorite ebooks. And it's actually the first ebook I wrote. And it shares a lot of my personal stories, some childhood stories from when I was living in Jamaica and I was being raised by my grandmother. Now, she is 100 years young. Yes, 100 years young. And so she has a lot of information and a lot of great helpful tips that she shared with me. And it was inadvertent. She probably didn't mean to be sharing professional development tips with me, but she is such an example of someone who understands people and how to lead others and how to truly connect with people that I found it only fitting to share a lot of our stories and interaction in the form of an ebook, and also, of course, give some great professional development tips. So I want to offer that to you in exchange for just completing a short survey. All right. So the way you can help me out, I urge you to, as soon as you're finished listening to this podcast, go directly to this website. Okay. You ready? It's my website, drSimoneSays.com. That's Simone, SIMONE, says, SAYS.com/lead. That's it. drSimoneSays.com/lead. And there is a really short survey through Google Docs. You click submit, and then I'll give you access to that ebook because I really value the input from all of the healthcare professionals that I come across. But some of you I might not be able to meet at meetings or meet at events and conferences. So I'd love to hear from you. I want to know what's hurting you, what's haunting you, what are the problem areas as far as being a leader in healthcare. And it doesn't only mean that I want to hear from CEOs or CFOs or office managers. I definitely do want to hear from you if you have those roles. But if you are in a leadership role, even in the most, what you would consider smallest or minute capacity, please reach out, complete this survey, and then of course I want to say thank you by giving you direct access to my ebook, Lessons from Emmy. Well, healthcare professionals, thank you so very much for tuning in, and don't forget, next Wednesday there will be a new upload just for you. Until next time, remember, I am Dr. Simone, and I will either see you at the top or from the top. You decide.
To join Dr. Simone's exclusive email list, visit DrSimoneSays.com. Your information is never shared, and we at Dr. Simone International respect your privacy. To find out more about Dr. Simone, visit DrSimoneSays.com. That's www.drSimoneSays.com.